CBS 6 News starts now.
Hi, I'm Tom Meschen, the host of Power and Politics, the conversation about the issues that are impacting you the most with the people that are making those decisions and the advocates, too, holding them accountable along the way. Today, we sit down with New York's Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado on the heels of his announcement that he won't be on the ticket for Governor Hochul's re-election bid in 2026. Of course, we ask him why he's made that decision, why he's made it now, and why he says all options are on the table and what options those potentially could be. We also get into other conversations around affordability and the federal government's policies impacting New Yorkers right now. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, you can listen to the Power and Politics podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and also on YouTube at CBS 6 Albany. On Monday evening, you tweeted out, sent out on social media, you made the decision not to run for re-election with the governor. Why?
I think it's very important right now to be an independent voice, to be able to connect directly with folks all across the state, and to do so in a way where I'm only accountable to them, that I am in a position to speak freely. One of the things that I've noticed as I traveled across the state is there's a real distrust right now for government, for elected officials across the political spectrum. And in large part, I understand why. I think the status quo is broken. And I think where we are right now politically is an incredibly divisive moment. And it's important for leaders to step up, to demonstrate where their allegiance lies. And for me, it's very, very important for New Yorkers to know that I am their voice, that I want to be their voice, and that is the only thing that I am beholden to, is the people. And being in a position where I can display that and speak freely at a time of real crisis, both for the state and for the country, I think is very important to do.
You talk about being beholden to the people, and I think that's really interesting. You were on with David Lombardo of the Capitol Press Room a few weeks ago and spoke, I think, in the light of, at that point, you had recently called for Eric Adams to resign. And you mentioned all of the distrust and what the people believe politicians could be beholden to. You listed lobbyists, yes, big funding, corporations, things of that nature. And you say you're beholden to the people. What people?
All. When I ran for Congress back in 2018, which feels like a lifetime ago now, the big reason why I ran, and I said this in my statement, is I felt like we needed more leaders who were accountable to the people, all people, irrespective of race, gender, sexual orientation, party affiliation, everyday folks, not big business, not big corporations, not money, not power, actual human beings with families who get up every single day and try to put food on their table and look out for their kids. That's what we need to be focused on. And the emergence of Trump back in 2016, like many folks, awakened in me this belief, this understanding that something is going wrong here from where I sat. Why is it that our system is such that an individual who, in my mind, doesn't truly care about the people, but is able to feed on their fears and anxieties, has been able to emerge? What does that say about those of us who haven't stepped up? So I did step up. But what I've learned over the last 7, 8 years is Trump was in many respects the byproduct of a broken status quo. Yes, he's a problem, and he's a big problem, but the underlying dynamics have been in place for a very long time. And those dynamics are ones where you have a system of government that is basically beholden to moneyed interests and corporate power, consolidated corporate power. And as that consolidated power continues to grow, elected officials become extensions of that power as opposed to extensions of the people. And this is across the political spectrum. And so for that reason, I look at where we are now in the landscape and I say to myself, what are we doing as those of us who care about public service to make sure that we are cutting through that noise and reassuring the public, everybody in the public, that we care about them and not about those who happen to have the means to access us. By the way, fewer and fewer of those folks have the means to access power.
That's just the beginning of this comprehensive sit-down with Antonio Delgado, New York's Lieutenant Governor. When we come back, we follow up on that statement he just made, asking if Governor Hochul, if he believes that she is beholden to something else. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Power and Politics. We continue our conversation now with Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado, continuing our conversation about his decision to say that he will not be running alongside Governor Kathy Hochul on her 2026 gubernatorial ticket. You referenced Trump there, but you are declaring independence here from the rest of this ticket, which you have been on. That would lead some to believe that the other side of this ticket, and that would be the governor, doesn't necessarily align with what you just said and is beholden to something else. Is that true?
I'm speaking for myself, and I think that's an important point. This is bigger than our dynamic. This is the overarching, systemic, political reality of our times. We are literally in the middle of a moral, existential crisis right now. There's a complete lack of faith in our very institutions. And when you look at the way Trump is currently able to be so destructive to our system, I think it is symptomatic of the disease, which is a loss of faith in our democracy. The fact that he can talk so brazenly about destroying agencies that have been congressionally created, the fact he can be so brazen to disregard court orders, the fact he could be so brazen to basically say, I'm going to impound congressionally appropriated funding. And on top of that, the fact we have folks in Congress, in his own party, who make it their business to say, our president deserves the speaker he wants. Last time I checked, Congress is a co-equal branch of government. So why are they bending the knee to an individual who's not a member of Congress? It's an entirely separate branch of government. And last time I checked, the judicial branch is a separate branch of government. So when I speak about the times we're living in right now, I'm speaking about those larger dynamics where we have destruction happening all around our institutions, and that destruction has been rendered permissible by the behavior of elected officials and the behavior of our system across decades. We didn't have to be in this position right now. Did not have to be in this position at all.
Whose fault is that?
A lot of people's fault in leadership.
Is it the Democrat Party?
Democrats have
right now,
the
the Republicans.
The Democrats have a big part of the blame, because we're the ones who talk about working families. We're the ones who talk about making sure that we protect folks who are trying to get by every single day, put food on their table. We're the ones talking about making sure we want everybody to have a shot at getting ahead. We want that small business owner to find their own journey, their own path to financial freedom. We want that little child growing up in any community, from a rural community to an urban community, to have a chance to make a way and be whatever their dreams might be. We want to make sure people have access to real, affordable health care that they can rely on and not get cheated on by insurance companies, right? We're the ones who champion these things. We say we're for labor, right? And so, okay, but when you look at the numbers and you look at what's been happening over the last 20, 30 years or so, economic inequality has grown. Under our watch, too, it has grown. The top 1% right now own more wealth than the entire middle class. Two-thirds of folks in our country, paycheck to paycheck. They're living paycheck to paycheck right now in our country. So when you talk about our policies, well, how are they actually affecting people's lives? They're not, because they're not reaching people's lives. What did we do with that period of time? We started playing the game within the game. We took our eyes off the people and focused on party politics and hierarchy within our party, and said, how do I make sure that I relate appropriately to those within my party or special interests or the donor class, and not give as much attention to the people as they deserve?
We have to take a break, but when we come back, we ask Antonio Delgado if running for governor is one of his options. Welcome back to Power and Politics. I'm Tom Eschen. We continue our conversation now with Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado in regards to his future, why he says all options are open. You got into politics because of the last Trump administration. Said before we started talking, this feels a bit like that, a time of reckoning, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term. It sounds like you have another, I guess, impotence for your voice to be heard here. Does that involve a run for governor?
What you're speaking to in terms of the impetus, in terms of connecting with people, you're right. It is very similar to how I felt when I ran. You know, I was a lawyer for 6-7 years in the corporate space, had never run for any elected position. I'd voted, but I never was involved in any campaigns. Before that, I was a hip hop artist for 5 years, doing, you know, socially conscious, politically conscious music. So very different careers. When I decided to run, I felt compelled in that moment. It didn't even feel like a choice. It felt like I just had to step up, like so many other folks did in their own ways. And I ran in that district, that is a district that is home for me, home for my wife. Our families grew up around, in and around the area. And it felt very purposeful. And it was important in that moment to step up and meet people where they are. The moment that I'm in now, in many respects, feels similar, in that I'm looking at the situation that we're in. I'm looking at the state of affairs across New York, across the country, and I feel like I need to be out there more. I need to be engaging more with people. I need to figure out a way to leverage all of my skills and my experience and my know-how to be the best leader that I can possibly be in this moment. So for me, I have to free myself from any kind of restraint. I have to give myself the lane to say and do whatever I ultimately feel compelled to do. So when I say all options are on the table, they're on the table. That level of freedom gives me the chance to do what I'm doing right now, to speak unapologetically. There's a level of freedom that I think every political actor really should have if they want to do their job the right way. It shouldn't be a calculus. It shouldn't be about who you're going to offend within the party, you know, what power, what boss in the party, whatever the case might be. And again, this is a general matter, right? If you can't operate without that level of freedom to some degree, then you're not really able to connect in a real way with the people. And the climate we're in right now, in particular, with the level of distrust that people have, I think that level of freedom is at an all-time demand, is a high. Like, people want it more than ever, and they should, because they're tired of it. So in this moment, that's the energy that I feel right now, to put myself in a position where I'm able to meet people exactly where they are on my terms, in my own voice, and make that marriage happen in a way that I can best reflect, to the best of my abilities, what they're going through. And then be about the business of articulating what a way out could look like, what a way forward can look like. That is where I'm at right now, and it's something that gives me great purpose and makes me feel like the work that I'm doing every single day is meaningful.
Have you been approached by anybody to run for governor, whether that's in the party or outside of it?
I have discussions all the time with people who are, I think, more than anything, putting aside the specific role, right? What they are looking for is who are our leaders? Where are the voices out there? Where's the next generation of leaders? Where are they going to come from? Just like they came in 2018. The wave of folks that came in 2018, a lot of my classmates, right, were individuals like myself who felt compelled in that moment. And the power of that moment was ushering in that next generation of leaders, I think, too. And I think we're all going about it in our own different ways. And so to me, this is another version of that, where I think it's just pushing all of us to figure out who we can be in this moment for the people, not for a career. Do I find a lot of fulfillment in service and in politics? I do. I genuinely feel a lot of fulfillment, more so from the people that I interact with every single day. But before I was in political life, I had a lot of fulfillment as an artist in the hip-hop world. I have fulfillment providing for my family as a lawyer at a law firm where I was able to do pro bono work around criminal justice reform and juvenile lifers and do work to learn what it's like to argue in a bankruptcy court. That was meaningful too, but very different. When I ran for Congress, I was able to figure out what gave me purpose and meaning in that space. And now as Lieutenant Governor, I've been able to find meaning and purpose. I share that timeline with you because it doesn't mean for me that in my mind's eye, I have to just stay in politics. I get a lot of fulfillment from it. I derive a lot of meaning from it. But if I'm in it, it's gotta be on my terms. And what I mean by on my terms is I gotta be authentic to me. And I gotta be able to connect with the people in the way that I wanna connect with the people. And I wanna be able to speak for the people in the way that I wanna speak for the people. And the times we're living in right now, in my estimation, require that of our leaders. This is not the time to hide behind anything. This is the time to stand up and stand out, be accounted for, and be heard. And wherever that takes you is where it's gonna take you. You can't try to just survive. You gotta figure out how to lead. And leaders, in my estimation, lead from the inside out. They have to have something on the inside of them that's pushing them to rally folks around. There are folks who sometimes just want to take everything from the outside, but if you don't have anything inside you, well, how can you lead? How can you really push the agenda that you think is right for the people if you don't have a vision? And so for me, there's something inside of me that materialized when 2016 happened, that's materialized with 2024 happening. And I'm just very grateful, I really am very grateful to have the opportunity in this moment right now to be able to let that energy connect with the energy that I know is out there with the people.
One last question is, while you consider these options, like you said, everything's on the table. In politics, a potential governor run on the table. Are you okay with staying in your current role for the next 1.5 to 2 years in this administration?
So, thank you for asking that question. I think I've made it clear how purposeful and how meaningful the work is that I'm able to do right now at this time, right? The communities that I get to engage with, the people that I get to engage with in my role as Lieutenant Governor, everything that I'm giving you right now, the energy, the emotion, the knowledge, so much of that is flowing through me because of my interactions with the people. That's how I'm able to communicate with the emotion that I am, with the clarity that I am. I feel very grateful, man. I feel very grateful to be in this position at this moment in New York. When I came back home from Congress and had to run in an independent election, in the primary, to become Lieutenant Governor, if someone said to me, 2+ years from now, this would be the dynamic, it would have been the furthest thing from my comprehension. Trump back in office, all the chaos going on in our state amongst, folks in our own party and leadership, and where does it all fit in the grander landscape of, federal policies coming down, and the loss of faith across the body politic. But here I am, now in New York, the place that raised me and my wife, the place I love with all my heart, where I went to college, where I got married. Like, to be home and fight this fight now in whatever capacity, to be fortunate enough to have a role, to do my part, I'm very grateful for that. And I'm gonna hold tight to that, very tight, because it gives me the opportunity to do this work and hopefully restore people's faith, give them a bit of hope, and inspire them that we can be better, that we can elevate, and we don't have to resort to these destructive practices, which might feel good in the moment. I get it. You know, we all have that feel, not all of us, but I can relate to like wanting to bash something or break something. It just feels good sometimes. But in the end, when it's all said and done, once the emotion passes through you, what are you looking at? Carnage. What you're looking at is just a mess and destruction. There's nothing built. There's nothing left. And that's what I'm afraid of right now. We're letting this destructive energy take hold. And it's making us not able to really communicate anymore, listen to each other anymore, work with each other anymore. Everybody's in their corners, fists up, heels dug in, ready to go. Our children are watching. My kids are watching. Our grandkids are watching. What are they looking at? This is what I think about. And so this is the moment that I process. And so, yeah, that was a lengthy way to make the point. But the point hopefully was made that, I very much appreciate the opportunity to be in this role at this moment for the exact reasons I just laid out, given the stakes of this moment.
Governor, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for watching. Now, this is just part one of our two-part debut series of Power and Politics on air here on CBS 6 and the CW15. We appreciate you watching, but if you want the full conversation now, go to our podcast page, Power and Politics, and listen to the full, comprehensive conversation with Antonio Delgado. You can also see it on YouTube at CBS 6 Albany. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.